Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope. You are listening to Specky in Charge today, and I'm joined. Unfortunately, not got a full house because Ewan is otherwise engaged, but I've got Spicy. Liam, how you doing?
I'm spicy as ever, mate. Thank you for asking.
I think even spicier after yesterday, but we'll touch on that soon enough.
If I'm spicy, is Greg salty? Greg's got to be salty. He's a salty fucker. Like,
I was thinking more along the lines of bitter, to be honest. But no, I'm joking. Greg, you're looking very fashionable. For those that aren't watching on YouTube, Greg's got quite a snazzy tracksuit on.
Thanks, Harry. What's my name? Surely I need to be involved in the S.
All right.
So what are you calling me?
What about Shouty?
I'll take that, yeah. Okay.
Sounds like the new like the 8th dwarf or something.
You were shouty yesterday, but okay, if you want to pass that baton on to me, I'll do that.
Mate, if I pay my money and I come up for London, I can do what I want. Anyway, let's touch on some personal things. Liam, you're in the new house. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going well, mate. It's like day 4 or 5, and yesterday was a complete write-off because I was in Motherwell all day, pretty much. But it's going well. There's a lot of things still to fall into place, but as you can see, I've got some nice greenery outside, which is new. Having been an urban kid all my life, I've never seen any greenery in my cream puff. But all good, mate.
And from the pictures I've seen, looks absolutely magic so far. And Greg obviously went for Hibs yesterday. Was it an easier Monday at work today following that?
I would say so, yeah. Obviously, there's a few Hearts fans in the office as well. Made one on Saturday, so I felt like we had to do the business yesterday, and thankfully we did.
Aye, but let's just get fired straight into it, guys. Obviously, we banged the drum and we gave Motherwell props for making a very fair ticketing price for the game. And I believe Alan Burrows was tweeting yesterday about how it was Motherwell's best non-old firm attendance at a game for about 18 years. So absolute kudos to them. When we initially got there, it looked about empty, but then to be fair to them, it did fill up before the game started. So it was actually a very good home attendance. And then obviously we sold every single ticket we could possibly get our hands on. What did you guys make of the atmosphere? Liam, we'll come to you first. How did you feel the atmosphere was yesterday compared to the rest of the season so far?
Well, we made the decision. I say we made the decision. I think we had no choice. We were obviously in the upper tier yesterday, so we weren't in amongst it quite as much as perhaps normally would be on an away day. But it was very good. I felt in upper tier. Plenty of singing. Players, I think, quite early on in the game gave the fans reason to back the team. So I think in terms of away support, you can't really ask much for too much more than that in a Scottish Cup quarter final. The atmosphere, really from beginning to end, particularly at the end after the 90 minutes was over and done with, was I thought just exceptional yesterday.
Greg, anything to add to that yourself?
Nah, to be honest, you say that was our best attendance outside the Old Firm, but to be honest, I didn't really see it. I thought it was quite a poor home crowd, to be honest. Thought the Hibs fans were magnificent from start to finish. The red card might have had something to do with that. Obviously, get the fans up for it early, but I thought the Hibs fans were exceptional, start to finish. Even when we went, lost a goal, the fans stuck with the team, and it makes a big difference, I think.
And you mentioned it there. Let's just get stuck into the game. Obviously, we're kind of expecting this tense affair. Both teams struggling for goals at the moment. Not really much attack between the two teams. And then I think it was probably the quickest red card I've ever seen in person in my life. Just a moment of madness from Bevis Mugabe. Greg, what did you make of the challenge initially? I know that out of the four of us, you were probably the least scathing of the tackle.
I watched it back again, and I don't know, I'm probably still undecided on whether it's a red or not, but I think the way it's lunged in doesn't look good. A lot's been made of the reaction of certain players, obviously one man in particular. Ryan Porteous wasn't allowed to open his mouth on a football pitch without the media slating him. But for me, I think if you go in like that early in a game with that much force, of course you run the risk of getting a red card. And I think if there wasn't a red card given there would have been one given 5 minutes later. So I don't really think it had that major effect on the game, to be honest.
Lee, what was the initial reaction? Were you thinking, brilliant, they're down to 10 men, this is a cakewalk? Or were you thinking, this puts so much pressure on the team, we've got a full 90 minutes, if we don't win, we're going to be an absolute meltdown?
that sometimes there's that perennial cliche about it being harder to play against 10 men in some games. I think Motherwell are probably one of those teams who actually are really well set up to play with 10 men, because essentially their midfield's just built on guys that are runners. They defend our box typically quite narrow. So actually, in a lot of respects, it probably did suit Motherwell in some respects, but with us being the kind of dominant voice in the ground, to go down to 10 men and have one of those kind of back to all kind of games, I know probably over the course of 90 minutes it does favour you, but maybe not as much as it would in a typical game. So yes, yeah. I mean, I think the decision, just to quickly touch on it, I think the decision, I've watched it back from a number of different angles. I know Kenny Miller's probably still trying to make his mind up now on what colour card it should have been. I think he's sort of somewhere between purple and lilac at the moment. The card he thinks it should be, but for me it was a red card. Just purely based on the recklessness of it and the height of the tackle as well. But generally, a straight leg in these games with your studs up is probably going to result in a red card more often than not now.
And yeah, just whilst we're on you, Liam, do you want to touch on what Sean Hamilton said? I think that we're all in agreement that it's a bit ludicrous.
Aye, so Sean Hamilton, for those of you who don't know, made his debut on the Terrace TV on Friday night. I know there'll be a lot of people here who'll be rolling their eyes at me even mentioning that, given it is a show which is heavily infiltrated by those of a maroon pound variety. But I do think some of his comments today are just a wee bit verging on piggybacking on this really unhelpful narrative that Ryan Porteous is a complete and utter thug, and he's a total shite house, which maybe it is a little bit in some respects, but he's basically said, instead of touching on either of the two tackles from either of the Motherwell players, which were both shockers, he decided to get all hot and bothered about Ryan Porteous clapping at the referee making the right decision. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I really need to say too much more than that about it. If that's what your main focus is, rather than on player welfare and player safety, then you're probably in the wrong job.
Yeah, and just one last thing to round it out. God forbid a Hibs player is happy after something positive happens for their team. That would be absolutely ludicrous. So Ryan Porteous, we need to stop clapping and being happy. Next time we score, let's just be silent, please. But we'll go back a step.
Just to touch on that, how many other teams do that though?
I know.
How many other teams, go up to the ref and ask him to get the red card out or whatever? So yeah, it's just I'm sick of this narrative that's been driven about Ryan Porteous that seems to be pretty much every week, no matter what he does. So it's a bit of a shame. Let the boy play football, let the boy do what he wants to do. But people just can't be happy for anyone. And I mean, that Sean Hamilton's pretty irrelevant, but his comments today were nothing short of disgusting, to be honest.
It's just not ideal. But let's move on. We can let them throw hammers at the wall as much as they want. But team got announced. I didn't actually see it until maybe like 50 minutes before kickoff, but there was quite a few surprises thrown in there. I think first of all, Joe Neal being back. How excited or shocked were you when you saw his name on the team sheet? Greg, we'll go to you first for that one.
I was just going to dive into. I was going to dive in like Jordan Roberts on a loose ball there. I thought the Joe Neal one was a massive surprise. Sean Malloy obviously was keeping his cards quite close to his chest. That or just playing the wrong cards entirely by saying that he felt like Joe Neal and Paul Hanlon were a while away. So I was really surprised to see him in there. But then I suppose if Doyle Hayes wasn't available, there was maybe an element of me thinking that has Joe Neal maybe been rushed back, because ultimately if we had no Doyle Hayes, we'd have had Josh Campbell as our only recognised central midfielder. So maybe it was a decision that wasn't made but was just forced. But how good was he for a guy who's not played for 5 or 6 weeks yesterday?
Absolutely, because he was absolutely phenomenal in that game against Hearts as well. Something else. But speaking about absolute gravy, Greg, we got a starting debut for Elias Melkersen. How happy were you to see his name on the starting team sheet?
To be honest, I don't think we really had any other option, to be fair. So I think that Maloney spoke a lot about in the Long Bangers interview about, Melkersen was ready now. He may be taking a bit of time to settle in, but he was now ready to get going, and he certainly proved that. Yesterday with his 2 goals. I was very surprised with Newland, to be fair. I didn't think he would be back. I know he mentioned Aberdeen, but I don't even think he'd be playing at that game. So good to run back, and he absolutely is just Rolls Royce on his day. Like,
And was there anything else on the team sheet? You guys, I thought the team kind of picked itself aside from those guys, to be honest.
Dabrowski, to be honest.
I think I think the Macy Dabrowski debate is definitely valid, but for me, I didn't think that Macy should have came back in on the basis that Dabrowski hadn't done anything wrong. And personally, at the moment, I don't think the Macy's done anything particular. I think his distribution was probably the poorest it's been in the last few games. But aside from that, I don't think he could have done anything for the goal. But we'll come on to that. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand. Liam, but just before we move on to the actual game itself, where do you stand on? I know you're a big Dabrowski enthusiast, but do you see Maloney's logic?
Kevin Dabrowski, HFC, it went up a wee bit today when he was on Hip's Twitter, if I can help him out with donations for the invasion that's going on in Ukraine at the moment. Top guy, as well as a good goalkeeper. But I think, in all honesty, I think Matt Macy's probably shown the last few weeks why he's number one. His performances have been pretty good. There's elements of this game that frustrate me, but there's elements of most players in that starting 11 and probably every squad player at Hibs that frustrates me to some extent. So you learn to live with it. But he was getting a wee bit of a hard time, I noticed, second half yesterday, because he was really slow to roll the ball out quite a few times. And I think some of that was probably justified, but there was part of me that was questioning whether that was part of the instruction, was to just slow it down. Second half, we didn't need to go and chase the game too much. As much as I wanted us to get 2 or 3 goals in the second half, we didn't need to.
I do remember you very confidently telling me, it's going to be 5-1, Harry. It's all right. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But yeah, so start of the game, obviously 60 seconds in. Anomaly, not often you'll see a red card in the first 15 minutes. That should never be accounted into the decision. Do you think that the fact that they sent off Mugabe is the reason he didn't send off Roberts? Because for me, it's potentially even a worse tackle. It's an absolute lunge. It's intentional. It's reckless. Do you think that the referee kind of was a bit of a shite bag in terms of getting the card out there?
I would say so, yeah. I think his arse has collapsed when he's seen Roberts go in. There's not really a lot of difference between the two tackles. So if one's a red, the other one's got to be a red, and if one's a yellow, then the other one's got to be a yellow. So either way, he's got 2 decisions wrong.
It was interesting, eh? Like I watched Sports Scene this morning, which I don't do a huge amount, but I watched Sports Scene this morning just to see the game back, essentially. And I was very interested to see how Alan Hutton and forget who the other person was that was on it now.
McPake was on it.
McPake both said it was a yellow, and I was a bit like, but they didn't really provide any justification for it being a yellow. But they also did both admit the fact that someone had already been sent off probably influenced the referee's decision. So it's very, very borderline for me, but it probably is a red.
But what was the wording that Graham Alexander? That there was conspiring against Motherwell. Well, maybe don't order your players to go and absolutely bollock the Hibs players from the first whistle. I think that there was clear instructions to get stuck in and try and leave something on the Hibs players. I think personally, it's not a topic I want to dive too much into because there's a lot of game to cover, but I think Graham Alexander's pretty bad for the Scottish game. I think he encourages his players to go out and play very physical, ugly football, and I think he's just an absolute torn face in every interview I've seen him. But moving on, if you want to bring that up, we can bring it up later. Moving on, first half, I thought we were very good. I thought it was some of the finest football we played under Maloney. I think that we stretched the game very well. I think the fact that Jasper and Cadden kind of had a really nice connection on that right wing, and then Dre Wright probably had the best half of his Hibs career. Liam, overall in the first half, how do you think we played, and how does it compare in recent weeks?
We played with a certain amount of tempo and swagger and confidence that maybe I've not seen us play with consistently over the last number of weeks. I think we've done it in spells, but probably not for 45 minutes. There was some players who were really very, very, very good yesterday, who probably elevated themselves to a level above their teammates. And just name some of those individuals, and I know I'm maybe jumping ahead a wee bit, but just Sylvester Jasper, like just the boy's arrogance and his ability to do things in tight spaces. I love to see it. I just love to see it, and I don't think he necessarily is anywhere near being the finished product. There's huge parts of his game that are very raw and rough, which is fine for a guy of 21 years of age. But the things he can do well, he can do them very, very well. And his close control, his ability to put defenders on the back foot and twist and turn is very good. And then he's also no bad pass of the ball at times as well, as we saw yesterday.
And Greg, I'll just come to you straight away for the first goal. Talk us through it. Sylvester Jasper on the wing. Greg, take it away. What happened next?
I've seen a lot of people give him a bit of a hard time about his end product. He does well down the right-hand side. Probably does get a bit lucky with the break of the ball, but the ball is exceptional. We've got a striker that runs to the near post. We need that for a long time. So he runs in. Great ball in with good pace in it and all. Melkersen has to do is guide it in. Past Liam Kelly, who decided he was going to time waste after 3 minutes, which was very strange, but it's just what we've wanted. Very direct for Jasper, great ball in, and your striker gambles at the front post, looks to make a move, and it's just everything we've wanted for a while from Sean Maloney's Hibs. We can go on about the past and moving the tempo we want, but that was all there in the first half yesterday, and I think we've seen that with the goal. So yeah, like, we were getting balls in the box, bodies in the box yesterday, so we look much more of a threat going forward, I think.
I don't know if you guys noticed it as well, but it was an absolutely beautiful moment as soon as Jasper broke through and we realised they had the ball at his feet still. We were standing the whole game, but people in front of us were all sitting. And as soon as he broke through that, everybody stood up at once. And I absolutely adore it in football when that happens. And then obviously, because everybody's on their feet, as soon as the ball hits the back of the net, it's absolute pandemonium in the stand. Yeah, anything that you want to add to that goal, Liam? I think Melkersen deserves credit, as Greg said. Brilliant to see a striker finally cutting through the line and actually try to get on the end of a cross.
I'd be interested in G's perspective on this, but I think one of the hardest things as a centre half is to be able to deal with is that run that kind of hurts you for the blind side. And we've probably not really had a centre forward making that run for a wee while. I wonder if that's maybe what's been missing.
I mean, the issue is with defending that is that if you're marking the man towards the back post and your centre half partners at the front post, he makes a run that is not quick enough. He's not quick enough to make the shout to get the centre half to step over. So it's just the movement is so quick that nobody can deal with that. And the way he got on the end of it was just the goalie's got no chance either. So.
Yeah, no, it was nice, and then obviously we're 1 goal up. They're down to 10 men. Atmosphere is absolutely cracking. It's the first time in a while, even in our Arbroath game, it didn't really hit like that. It was the first time in a while where it felt like Hibs were back. It just felt like we absolutely knew what we were doing and we had a clear game plan. And I think it's fair to say that we dominated after that. What did you think about the section of the game after the first goal and leading up to the second goal? Liam, we'll come to you first.
There was just lots of nice wee bits of play, nice wee interchanges in the midfield, lots of runners coming. Like we were playing like with a real, like, I keep using the words confidence, arrogance and swagger, but that's what it was. And maybe part of that was the fact that they had, the backing 3,500 away fans. Maybe the fact that it was, Motherwell were down to 10 men. Maybe the fact that players were just starting to see things click that have been waiting to click for weeks now, in terms of there being lots of guys who have probably over the last number of weeks been performing relatively well, but maybe just not seeing the fruits of their labour. And I felt like there was probably a good 15, 20 minutes where I thought, just like really on it.
And Greg, there's been lots of talk the whole time since Maloney came in. He was obviously brought in to try and bring that and implement that attack in football. And there was loads of talks about a system. Do you think that Sunday was the start, like a visualization of what's to come under Maloney?
I think it's probably the closest we've seen. Definitely is a good start, and I think that it will only get better. However, we have still got players out, so we do still need to be very patient. Obviously, Henderson went off injured yesterday as well. Doig went off injured, so although it's starting to show, we still do need to be patient. There's no point going, oh well, we done it last week, so like know that this week or whatever, it's always going to be different. different teams will set up differently home and away. It's not one size fits all. We also need the bodies back in the squad and boys back fit before I think we'll play see the finished product. And also need the window as well before we can get a proper gauge. But I think we'll probably see that starting next season when he's brought his own players in and some have been offloaded or whatever. So it's a good start though. I was very impressed with us, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. And Liam, I don't want you to put pressure on you at all, but apart from maybe Doyle Hayes' second, or was it second? That goal from Melkersen was by far my favourite goal so far this season. Go and talk us through the magic that happened. We're forgetting about Hampden because that's in a ballpark its own, but you get what I'm saying. Talk us through the magic.
Apart from the best goal of the season with about 7 major caveats. I do. Talking of the words that bring in with cav, I think we'll start with caviar as the first word, because the ball from Sylvester Jasper over the top, just the foresight to have the vision to play that pass first of all, then to execute it, then the touch from Melkersen, which the centre half knows as soon as he's taking that touch he's in a world of trouble because he's already in behind him. And then I didn't vocalise this at the time, at least I don't think so. I felt like, for some reason in my head, I was like, Melkersen doesn't have a left foot. Melkersen doesn't have a left foot. Needs to get onto his right. And I was expecting him to take another touch. And he just hits it with the left back across Liam Kelly. And it was just, in some ways, like you love to see a volley, you love to see those individual kind of solo goals. They're all great. I love watching them. But see the simplicity, just a ball over the top sometimes, a really good first touch to get out your feet, and then just to get yourself into position and just slot it away behind the keeper like that. It's poetry in motion, eh? Absolutely beautiful stuff.
And I'll just so you can get another ribbon off me, because I know you like to slag me on the pod. One of my favourite things in American football is when a quarterback throws a pass and it hits a receiver like properly in stride, so they don't have to break their stride at all. Melkersen starts running and he doesn't change speed at all, and that ball drops. It doesn't bounce. It doesn't hit. It drops onto his chest. The touch, as you say, absolute mwah. And then the finish, the composure. Oh, Greg, after breaking down that goal, what was your favourite aspect of it?
I think it's the way he hits the ball, because he sort of hits it down and it sort of rises up in the net, and then just the pandemonium in the away end was lovely. But look, I think we've got a player like Jasper that can play out wide, he can be direct, he can go down the line, but he can also ping balls over the top like that, you know. And you've got a striker who's willing to run in behind and make the runs and has the ability to finish them. It makes a big difference. So yeah, I didn't know Jasper had that in his locker, but to be fair, that was some goal. Like,
you'll never see a football fan less manly though than when their team just scores, because the amount of high-pitched squealing I heard after that goal hit the back of the net yesterday was sublime.
I think that was all Liam and Ewan, to be fair.
Definitely not me.
I've got a really high-pitched squeal, like it's fucking embarrassing for a guy with a deep voice. Like, my squeal is quite something to behold. Like,
I know my dad's quite feminine as it is, but when Hibs score, he literally sounds like a woman. Honestly, it's brilliant. But yeah, I caught myself there. But yeah, no, set for two very good goals, and I think something that I know it's a cliche that you guys probably don't like, but they're striker goals. They're the type of things that, even though Kevin Nisbet, I really like Kevin Nisbet and I rate him as a player, but he doesn't really score those generic, well, not generic, but those kind of striker goals, the type of goals that you'd see like a Jamie Vardy, who's like a absolute out and out striker. You don't really see him score those type of goals, so it's brilliant. And we've got someone like Melkersen who can actually make things happen out of nearly nothing. But yeah, then second half, towards the end of the half, we're all thinking, all we have to do, get into halftime, we can shut down shop, gonna be easy. Motherwell, Roberts cuts inside, gets a yard of space, should have been closed down, but takes a shot, wild, terrible, bounces off his teammate's chest and hits the back of the net. How frustrating was that they scored the goal at absolute nothing? It was just stupid, and it was absolutely Hibs to concede that goal.
I think it was you, Harry, that said the only way we could see that goal like that.
No, it was you. I think it was you that said that. But it's so true. So true. It feels that way anyway.
I mean, it's just, you can't even stop it, to be fair, because the way that the ball's been hit and then it hits off the boy's chest and sort of trickles in, You know, it's just shite, isn't it? But there really is no other way to describe it than just shite. But yeah, look, I think we could have probably. I think a few people are probably a bit nervous going to half time at 2-1 because they'd not really been in the game, and then they're way back into the game. So I think we probably watched typical Hibs or usual Hibs. They've been circling around the far park away end, but to be fair, I wasn't really bothered by them. Didn't think they were that dangerous at all yesterday.
Liam, how unsettling did you find it? I didn't really get that kind of gut punch feeling.
Nah, normally when you can see the goals just for half time like that, I go in totally deflated at half time, but didn't really feel any different. I was kind of like, happens, like sometimes you do lose a bit of a free goal like that. Motherwell hadn't really been in the game, so I wasn't too worried about it. I also thought we had enough about us yesterday that didn't turn out to be true, but I thought we'd go on and score a few in the second half anyway, so I genuinely really wasn't worried, which was probably the general consensus of most people that I spoke to at half time. Everyone seemed very relaxed about it. I think sometimes when the fans are more relaxed about these things, sometimes that transmits onto the players as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll try and not say too much about the second half because we want to keep this a very positive podcast. Hibs have got back through to Hampden. I think that's 6 competitions in a row we've qualified for Hampden, which is currently the best of any team in Scotland. It's genuinely an incredible record and testament to the players that have been at the club the entire time doing that, because that is mental. But second half,
Harry, how many times did you lose your shit?
Well, I'll go on my rant and then you guys can correct me and tell me why I'm wrong. But I thought the things that went really well in the first half, we had a nice tempo. I thought that we were utilising the width caused by the fact they went down to 10 men. And I thought that we were playing very direct. I thought in the second half, we seemed to be very narrow. I thought that both fullbacks were about 5 yards further inside than they were in the first half. I thought that Macy on the ball, particularly in the second half, I thought he was very slow to get it out. I know that the new thing seems to be wait till Poaches comes to collect the ball and that's how we distribute. But for me, I just thought we had such a good flair and intensity, and the only thing that let us down in the first half was them getting a lucky deflection that hit the back of the net. I was frustrated because it just felt like we had so much going on and we just shot ourselves in the foot, and I didn't think there was a way for Motherwell to win that second half. I thought we could only lose it, and I think that we were getting close to doing that, and that's why I was getting so frustrated, because we were so on top in that first half. I'm not buying this whole nonsense that the media are like, oh, Motherwell were brilliant to a man the whole game. No, they were good in the second half when we let them be. I thought Motherwell were crap yesterday. Van Veen, I don't know if you guys agree, I think he's a pretty useful player. I think that he puts himself around and he causes people issues. I don't think that technically he's the best player in the world, but I can see how he's got a purpose, and especially in a hammer-throwing team like that. But I just felt that everything I loved in the first half was kind of lacking in that second half. I don't know what you guys thought of the second half. You hopefully have a more positive perception of it than me.
I thought in the second half, don't get me wrong, I thought we were quite sloppy at times. But I don't think we were ever really in any danger. I thought that everything that came our way, the centre half dealt with well. The full defence defended as a unit. Macy came out and clicked for a couple of crosses. Despite Motherwell's best efforts at pushing them in the net with the ball. And Ricky Larry proceeded to roll about the floor like a child. But I thought that I'm a wee bit concerned that, well, not concerned, but a wee bit unhappy at how sloppy we were in the possession. A couple of times I think Campbell got caught out once and Allen got caught out. But other than that, I generally don't think we're in any real danger of conceding a goal. It would be only 2 things in the second half. I was really disappointed to see Miller go off, but I don't know if it was a knock or whatever there. So yeah, I think the second half was pretty much just go through the motions.
I think realistically, Muller I think he struggled yesterday. I think he just couldn't. Yeah. I just think he looked completely off the pace. I don't know about you guys. Like I'm really wanting Muller to do well, and I don't want to write him off because obviously people done that with McGuinness last season, and he came into this season flying. But Muller. But before you tell us your thoughts in the second half, Liam, what did you think of Muller yesterday?
There was some really good moments in an attacking sense. He gets the ball out his feet very quickly. I think he is a real tricky player. He probably doesn't have the pace to be a real devastating wide player in this league. I think his ultimate position for Hibs will be probably somewhere slightly more central. I just don't know exactly how central that position will be. Or maybe he'll play White, then we'll sacrifice his sort of maybe lack of pace for someone who's really prepared to bomb on down the outside of him. He obviously didn't get that with Jay Wright yesterday, because Jay Wright kind of got, through no fault of his own, shunted back to left back yesterday, and when he plays at left back as a right footer, he's always going to want to look to come in field. So it didn't really offer Mueller the option down the outside. So a real thing I've got a real hard on for in football is when you've got a winger who's got a cut inside, they absolutely need a fullback who's going to overlap. Otherwise, the whole thing just doesn't work. You watch every team that plays with inverted wingers, they need a fullback that can go down the outside, and vice versa for fullbacks and wingers. So I think maybe the system didn't help him as much as he could, but there are enough signs in me of there being a guy there with ability that I think he will make it work. He'll make it happen at Hibs. He'll maybe not be the absolute superstar that some folk maybe thought he was when he was going to sign for us, but I think he'll do well enough in this league to be a very, very solid player at this level.
And whilst we're on you, Liam, talk to us about the whole second half. One thing that I was concerned at, I think Molly done well in addressing it. Set pieces, I thought were going to be a bit of a concern. We had Ryan Porteous, and apart from that, everybody
Motherwell
looked like they were
team.
under 6 foot. Aye, exactly.
Motherwell a big team. Yeah, I mean, Motherwell have got big guys out of their team. I mean, I think even their fullbacks are big boys. They don't have many small guys in their team. Liam Donnelly and Dean Cornelius, who I think was at Hibs as a youngster in centre midfield, are not huge in terms of height, but in terms of physical stature, are big guys. Van Veen, I know you like centre forwards that can defend set pieces, Harry. Van Veen on the defensive end and an attacking end is an absolute monster. He is a journeyman football player, but again, his physicality brings something. Even the white players have got boys. Like, there was one particular set piece. It must have been in the first half. Motherwell got a corner, and the guy standing next to me, fuck, these are a big team. And when someone says it to you and you notice it, and you're like, we've got Lewis Stevenson marking a guy who's like 6'3" tall. But that's where we were yesterday, because we had to shunt Lewis Stevenson at left centre back. So Graham Alexander wants to go on about his team being kind of hampered by a sending off. We had to make changes as a result of one of those tackles. One of them was playing Lewis Stevenson at left centre back in a flat back four. Who'd have thought a couple of seasons ago that we'd be needing to do that with as much regularity as we have? He's done very well there when he's played there, but no manager's choosing to play a guy that height at left centre back.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, no, the physicality of Motherwell is always something that's concerning. But I think yesterday they were a bit over the line, and I think the referee probably could have done a better job of trying to protect the Hibs players, because I think that they did get away with quite a few just because he made such an early red card. But I think testament to Maloney and his coaching staff. Start of the season, we couldn't stop complaining about conceding goals from crosses. We're not going to consider that one a goal from a cross, because it was technically a shot that kind of just went rightly wrong or wrongly right from a Motherwell perspective. So is that something that Maloney's done, or is it something that the boys on the pitch have just got their shit together? Because I couldn't tell you the last time we conceded from a cross.
I think it's probably a mix of the two, to be honest. I think we maybe, I don't know if we're setting up differently now when corners and crosses come in, but I just feel like there's more responsibility being taken by the defenders, even by the midfielders who are back defending. I feel like we're just taking responsibility to ensure that people stick with their men first and foremost, and then the ball's cleared to safety. So I think it's quite a group effort. I don't think there's anything special that Maloney's done that he's come in and changed it. So I think it's purely just on a personal, an individual basis that people are just taking responsibility now.
And statistically, since Deutsch did come back into the team, even though he's not been scoring the goals, we have been conceding less from crosses and corners. So there must have been some kind of scientific theory to my madness. But yeah,
I think Liam said it yesterday, but there's another. We all have all 11 players back now, so I would rest that solely on Deutsch, to be fair. But you just run with that narrative, son.
But yeah, no, I thought second half, I think, especially the last 15 minutes, I thought we did what we need to do. We completely slowed down the tempo of the game. We were buying free kicks, which is something that we've not really done in recent times. And I just thought it was an all right ending to the game. I think after we checked our phone after a sub, and it was like 77 minutes. I was like, oof, this went quite quickly, because normally in those narrow games, it feels like it drags on. But yeah, any comments on the second half? I thought that we just kind of dealt our business well.
What we have to do, to be honest. I don't think there's anything else really to add to that.
Liam, anything from yourself?
Nah, I don't think so. Thoroughly professional. Would like to have seen us score more goals. Would like to have seen us batter them, but it's all about getting through, and we did that comfortably.
Hey, but it's not often at the moment we get to absolutely sing praises for the players. So I'll come to each of you and you can give me a player on the pitch that just impressed you and his performance. It just made you happy. So Liam, what player performed so well yesterday you thought, oh, he's made me feel good?
Captain Obvious has got to go for the Captain Obvious shout, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen. I just think Elias Melkersen, at a time when Kevin Nisbet's gone down injured, Christian Doidge is really struggling for form. You're looking, thinking, where are goals going to come from? We've not had our problems to seek in terms of injuries as well. So actually, in terms of that creativity behind the strikers has been an issue. And there was a huge amount of pressure on him yesterday, which I don't think can go unnoticed. We've paid a big fee for him in Scottish football terms, certainly in Hibernian FC terms. And he has had quite a bit of weight probably put on his shoulders with all the stuff that's been going on around his signing. And then he gets his first start away at Motherwell in the Cup. He's probably never really played in front of a crowd like that before. I don't think ran time in the Norwegian second division attracted crowds of that kind of significance. In front of 3,500 away supporters shooting into that end. What does he do? Go and gets a double in the first half. And I'll be honest, if there's been another really good chance, well, there was one other good chance to be fair that fell to him in the first half, but maybe if another one had come his way in the second half, I wouldn't have put it past him, I'd put it away. So I think with everything that was riding on it, it was Melkersen for me who I'd probably want to talk about most. And if we were still doing High B of the Week and I was allowed to nominate, he'd be who I'd be choosing because I know he'd fucking win the vote.
Hey, and Greg, if you had to give me a different player that wasn't Mr. Melkersen, who would you be picking?
A different player that wasn't him would probably be John Yule. But surprise inclusion. Like anyone was really expecting it, and then he came out, and the time he's been out, I thought he was excellent. To be honest, just very, very impressive. Even if he's not been out for a length of time, I think the way he played, the way he went about his business in the middle of the park, the way that he got things going, the passing, I thought he was excellent. So, and also a shout out to Jasper as well, who was just scary good. I'd like to see the nutmeg again because it was just wow. Yeah, that man's got a, you know what I mean? I think I shouted at the time, but that man's got a family. He absolutely embarrassed the boy. So yeah, but he seems to do it every week, just embarrassing people every week. So wonder how long it'll be before a hammer throw just goes right through him.
Jasper, your shout, Harry. I take it. Is he just stolen your shout?
No. I was expecting Greg to say Jasper, and then I was going to run through the unsung heroes who I fought on the day. Obviously Jasper, absolutely phenomenal. Like, I think the main word that comes to mind is disgusting. Like, you genuinely can't do that to people and get away with it, but he does. So it's absolutely magnificent to see in Hibs colours. I think Dr. Dre Wright, we have actually been singing his praises of late. I think that the way he was hounded on Twitter, I've always had a problem with, and I think he's absolutely shutting people up. I think that he was phenomenal in that first half. He's just got this energy and drive, and I hate it. The thing that always wound me up with him is I don't think, even though he's technically, maybe he's not the best player on the planet, but I always thought he gave 100%. I've never bought into this, Dre Wright's half-arsed noise. No, he always goes full speed as fast as he can the whole time, and I really respect that from him.
I would totally agree with that. I think you can absolutely question Dre Wright's ability as a footballer and as a starter for Hibernian FC. I think based on the numbers he puts up, I think you can absolutely question that. But you can, for me, his work rate's never been in question. He's always tried, and maybe sometimes he's taken the easy option, if you like. But I think a lot of that's been based on what he's had around him to work with. You also shout out to him because he is going to, I think, overtake Melker Hallberg as the Hibs player to play in the most number of positions, because he's now played right back, right wing back, right wing, left back, left wing back, and he plays centre forward against Celtic. So if he plays centre half and centre mid, then that's the. In fact, no, he has played centre mid, so it's just centre back that he still would play. If Lou Stevenson gets injured, watch out, Dre Wright's coming for you.
Does Dre Wright not play centre mid against Motherwell again when we won 3-0?
Aye.
What a player. Utility man. There you go, Alex. He's a proper utility man for you.
Dre Wright, Neil Hitati.
I want to give another few shout outs. I don't know if you guys all agree, but I think one of them, Greg will definitely disagree with. I think there was a moment in the second half, he had a moment of madness. He's had a few of them this season. Josh Campbell, he just kind of gets a bit too comfortable in possession, takes an extra touch and just kind of loses himself, and it nearly led to a goal yesterday, which would have been really frustrating and would have taken away from what I thought was a very good performance from him. I think that on the ball, he's not quite brave enough yet. I think that'll come with time and building his confidence back up. I think he's taken a bit of a knock from poor form of late, but I think off the ball, Josh Campbell was everywhere yesterday and he hounded them. And I think the one thing that compounded his performance yesterday was in the last minute of the game where you could tell he was absolutely knackered. There was a loose ball and he was the one that intercepted it and just punted it up the pitch. And I think a lot of players, if they were as knackered as he was, would have just left that. But I think he's got a lot of heart, and we've been critical of him on the podcast, but I think if he can just kind of iron out those cranks that keep coming up, I think that we've got a very good player. Well, not a very good player, but I think we can have a useful player in Josh Campbell, and I think that he deserves credit when credit's due. And yesterday, I think that he had a good enough performance. I would like to give him credit because we've lambasted him enough on the podcast.
He's just, can I just say on without the ball, he's absolutely fine. I've got no issues with him without the ball. I think we saw the limitations of him in the second half yesterday when we were given more possession, and he just his range of passing and the fact that he passes in the same direction that he's facing every single time probably limits what he can do as a Hibernian Football Club player. Because keep calling us Hibernian Football Club tonight. I'm fucking loving that, like Hibernian Football Club. Giving us the full Sunday name on a Monday. I do think it's the word that everybody loves now is pivot. He doesn't have that pivot to play in centre midfield. He can't take it in and quality ways.
Greg, do you appreciate me trying to give credit to a guy that we've dug out before? Do you not think it's warranted on this occasion?
I think you're quite right too. I think that the one disappointing thing yesterday was when he did lose the ball, he gets the ball on the feet, and for some reason he wanted to try and float it out wide after taking about 8 touches. But to be honest, you look at experienced players like Scott Allen tried to do the same and got caught out. So look, he is going to make mistakes. I think we probably wouldn't call his mistakes out as much as we didn't get punished for them. But we've been punished a few times for them. So I think he will. I think he has shown in recent weeks that he is better than what we've given him credit for. But look, yes, he was good. And like Liam says, off the ball, there's absolutely no issue. It's just in possession, he doesn't look that comfortable at all. Well, that's a confidence issue or not, I'm not sure.
Absolutely. And I think Scott Allen, I don't think it's going to be a particularly positive conversation when we come on to him. So we might leave him for another episode unless one of you guys wants to jump on it now.
No, he got a good reception again yesterday, like a very good reception. I sometimes feel as though he gets a better reception than is warranted for what he gives the team.
If I'm honest, I think he's done. I don't think he's going to play. I don't think he'll play. I just don't think he's up to that level anymore where he can help us out, where he can do something on the ball that gets our fans off their seat. I just think he's just not at this level anymore, to be honest. And it is sad to see. And it's many different opinions across his support, but for me, he's not got it anymore, which is a shame. But we can't be Sentiment FC forever.
The other wild thing, I think, it's difficult when you can. There's clearly huge elements, if not all of the fan base, absolutely want it to work out for him and want him to have kind of like one last hurrah in a Hib shirt, and for him to like finish the season with like 6-7 assists and maybe a couple of goals. Like, wouldn't that just be magic for that to happen? But you know, it's bad when people are saying things like he nearly made a pass in the second half that put someone through on goal. He nearly did something here. He nearly beat a man. It's moments of nearly. And if you were to take the wide berth that Scott Allen gets, and admittedly Scott Allen's got a lot of credit in the bank for the right reasons because he was very good at Hibs in 2 spells previously. I think this spell he's been pretty underwhelming, to be honest. And a lot of that has been because of, as we've spoken about many times before, because of the challenges that he's had going on in his life. and it's no fault of his own. But I do. To be honest, I don't get excited when he comes on anymore, and I haven't been getting excited when he comes on for a very, very long time.
Aye, and we just want to emphasise again how much we do truly love Scott Allen. I don't think there's a hateful bone in any of our bodies towards the man. He's incredibly handsome, and he's picked out some very sexy passes across the years. Unfortunately, as Greg and both Liam touched on there, I just don't think he's quite at this level. It might be a match fitness thing, and I'd love him to prove us all wrong and make us look stupid, but I don't think he will. But end of the game, referee blows for full time. Absolute jubilation in the Hibs end. We've made Hampden again. Just how buzzing are you guys for that trip next month?
You already know what my answer is going to be. I might let Liam go first on this one.
I'm buzzing. I'm worried that I might not be able to get various songs that were sung yesterday out of my head between now and next month, because I swear I was just singing the same 4 words that I knew to one of the songs on the train home yesterday, which is probably annoying a lot of people, including definitely the passengers behind me. Shout out to the Hibs dads who are behind me who are going, I'm pretty sure that started off as a Celtic song. Can you see me singing that? I'd rather just sing U2B, which is, by the way, one of the worst songs Hibs have ever sung. I know it's a classic, but it's shite, and it's not original at all. Anyway, what was I saying? Am I buzzing for it? Yeah, I'm buzzing. I am. Semi-final at Hampden. It'll be class.
And Greg, what about yourself? Yeah.
No, don't get me wrong, look, I'm buzzing for it, but I just think people throw up stats about how many times we beat Hampden, and to be honest, I don't really care. I really don't care about how many times we beat Hampden, because we need to win something. Ultimately, it's so very well going to Hampden and turn up, but if you don't win anything, then what's the point? That's just my opinion. That's my opinion anyway. I just think that people are so happy just to get to Hampden and I should have a season ticket there, but we don't win anything there. So we don't win trophies. It's all very well winning semi-finals and whatever, but you need to win the trophies. So Hibs fans want to see. You don't get anything this season. They go, it's okay. We got to a semi. No, we won the semi. We got to the final. Where's the trophy for that? Like, I honestly just want us to win trophies. Like, it's not difficult. People can go on about how many times we beat Hampden and whatever, but you start bringing trophies back to Leith. Like,
I think the concept of it not being difficult is probably a bit extreme. However,
I wasn't mean it's not difficult to win. It's just that it's not difficult to understand the concept.
Yeah.
We can go as many times as we want, but if we don't bring trophies back, then what's the point? Just turns into a day out then.
That Hampden appearances stat is fucking wild though. 18 appearances at Hampden in the last 11 years. Second behind only Celtic. The Rangers, I'm not sure if that's new co or old co, with 12 appearances. Aberdeen 11, Hearts 9. Like double the number of our city rivals. And I know what you're saying, Greg, about trophies, but there is an element of us just being a consistently very good cup team over the last 10 years. Like I think was it 4 games you have to win to get to the semi-final? No, 3 games you have to win to get to the semi-final consecutively. There is still an element of that that's challenging, and what I would hope is that by getting to more semi-finals and finals, we have the players who are part of that squad at the moment more experience of those situations, which then stands us in better stead for years to come, and maybe not repeat some of the mistakes of old. I think whatever happens, it's going to be a class day out, but I do really hope we can right a couple of wrongs from last season this year and go all the way. And I tell you what, I'd fucking far rather get to a cup final or win a cup final with fans there than I would fucking sit and watching it on BBC Sport at home.
100%. But guys, I've actually got a request for one of our followers. What I want you to do is I want you to record the next thing I say, and I want you to find out who does the scheduling for the Scottish Cup. I don't give a fuck who you draw us against, but if you give us another shite kickoff time, I will hunt you down and I will find you and I will boot you so hard in the balls. I'm not taking another midday fucking kickoff for a cup game. It's so annoying. Yesterday would have been one of the best days of our lives if we were able to go through to a pub for about 3 hours beforehand, but we weren't, because the stupid schedule screwed it. The game away at Arbroath would have been quality if we could have went to the pub for a couple hours before it, but we couldn't. So for this game at Hampden, I want it to be a minimum 3 o'clock kickoff, and if it's earlier than that, then me and whoever the scheduler is are going to be having words, and those words are going to turn into fists into his face. And
Saturday, Harry, I can guarantee you it's going to be Saturday 12:30, Sunday 12:30. Guaranteeing you now.
Oh, it can't be, man. We need a proper good day out, man.
Guaranteeing it now.
Oh,
with 4 clubs at that in the semi-final, like they're gonna give you the worst schedule possible, because Leeds Scotland will say it has to be early kickoff.
They certainly won't give you 4 o'clock on a Sunday or whatever. Like no chance.
But he's got to give me credit for. I thought that was an all right rant. I thought that was all right. Just before we move on.
It was good.
Yeah.
I've heard better of you, to be fair.
But that's surprising. Yeah. I normally just talk absolute nonsense. But yeah, one thing that I think, as I touched on there, that's obviously a highlight of the day. It's the day itself. That's a glorious thing about football. It's not just going to the football. It's about enjoying time with your mates. What about Carfin Hibernian Football Club? Talk to me about that. How did that go?
Great place. Great pints of Guinness.
Cracking selection of crisps as well.
Yeah, very good. Shout out to wee Lee, who were just feeding nuts for about an hour. He was a hungry wee boy yesterday.
So, yeah. Some laddie.
Very good pint of Guinness in the Carfin. This is my first visit to the Carfin Hibernian Social and Recreation Club, to give it its full Sunday name.
Even gave you a wee shamrock on the top of your Guinness as well. It was a lovely wee
nice touch. Nice touch.
Very nice.
I think we literally arrived. I think we were only Hibs fans there. We arrived just as folk were coming out of mass. I think it'd been a long one on a Sunday. Wow. So it's just the 4 of us and some slightly older gentlemen and ladies. You might want to say Sunday service.
But it was a lovely reception we got, to be fair. Very welcoming.
Aye, but remember that for your next Motherwell game, if you're wanting a good time, Carfin Hibernian support, Hibernian club. But aye, yeah, no. So one last question on the semi-final before we move back to some league action. If you've got to pick the names at the draw, who would you be giving Hibs?
Rangers.
Liam?
Well, I'm gonna. This is probably unfair to prejudge, but I'm going to work on the assumption that Celtic could get past Dundee United tonight, which would leave Celtic, Rangers and Hearts in the draw. And I think my school of thought with the Scottish Cup is you always take the easiest draw, so I'll have Hearts at Hampden.
I love to see it. I'm going to go down the Darren Till course of action and just say I'll take fucking anybody, bring them on, and we'll batter them. We're knocking out everybody. So aye, that's hopefully the aim for me. But realistically, we've got such a good record against that wee blue team at Hampden that I'd happily scud them again, even if they want to be orange instead of blue. But yeah, back to league action. We are away to Aberdeen this weekend. Massive game in terms of that ridiculously close battle for top 6 / European / irrelevance football in the Scottish game. Aberdeen, obviously sitting in 10th, kind of fell away from the pack a bit. Before we touch on Hibs, what type of Aberdeen are you expected to see this weekend, Liam? Obviously got Jim Goodwin in the door. I don't believe they've won a game under him yet.
Nah, Jim Goodwin's done what Jim Goodwin does and just try and make them really hard to beat, which is exactly the kind of football player he was, and he's the same kind of manager. I don't think they have really kind of let the shackles off, so to speak, going forward. But I don't also think he's got a huge number of really potent attacking players to do that. They are quite a stodgy defensive team. Their Achilles heel seems to be at least one of the 2 centre halves they've got at the club at the moment are just not good enough. So they're still conceding goals as well. They are only really a few points behind us in the table, so it's not like there's a massive gulf between the 2 clubs. But I think if you look at Aberdeen's season, probably the highlight was that 1-0 win over us in October when they'd been really struggling. I just don't really think they've had anything else this season to write home about. Maybe the 2-2 draw at Ibrox. They are a team that's really struggling. Ramirez is a threat in the final third, but he needs service, and I don't necessarily think that he's had the kind of levels of service that a striker like that needs. So who fucking knows what's going to happen?
And Greg, obviously, fantastic result. We're not taking it away, but we were against 10 men. If we played the exact same way we played against Motherwell, do you see us getting a positive result away to Aberdeen?
I think so. Aberdeen are a bit of a gang as well, to be fair. Liam says their centre halves aren't great. I think Bates especially is definitely one that we should target and get at him. The Muniz is also a threat, but we've been very solid lately. And to be quite honest, I don't really see that changing. But it's difficult because obviously Jim Goodwin's not really put a stamp as authority on the Aberdeen team yet. I think he's now a few weeks in, so they might start to play a bit more like a Jim Goodwin team. But I don't think a Jim Goodwin team really threatens us if we're at it. If we're on our game and go out and start the game well, I don't really think any Jim Goodwin team threatens us. So I like to see us be positive, be aggressive in the final third as well. I would probably like to see the same team as well. Just continuity, if possible. Obviously, with a couple of injuries, players went off, but continuity from last week. Be aggressive, be confident in possession, and go there and stamp our authority on the game. Because I don't really think that much of Aberdeen. I don't think they're all that great.
Well, Greg, you should definitely look up a career in being a mind reader, because you absolutely answered my next question. Liam, coming to you on that. We've got Paddy's Day coming up on Thursday. The luck is with us. We're going to say that all the players that started on Sunday are all fully fit for the game next weekend. Would you start with the same 11?
Probably not. No.
No?
I'd probably make a few changes, to be honest. If we had everybody available, I think Lou Stevenson's been an absolute warrior for us when he's played this season, and absolutely in no way deserves wanted being dropped. But Paul Hanlon would probably come back in if we were going back to full strength at left centre back. Aberdeen are another big team. It's a lot of big teams in Scotland with big guys, and Aberdeen are one of them. I'd probably look and bring Jake Dalhayes back in for Josh Campbell as well. I just think he just gives us a wee bit more, offers a wee bit more than Campbell does. And if everyone's fit, Kel McGuinness is the best midfielder on earth. So
I saw
bring
that.
him back into.
I might not have been clear enough. I meant from the start of the game against Motherwell. So that fully fit squad.
Fuck.
Apologies.
There's just me thinking I've got 11 fully fit players back in the squad to choose from. Like fucking struggling Albion even name a full bench, and then I've got 11 new players to choose from. To be honest, mate, I was having a hard time figuring out how I would fit those 11 players back into the team. I was like, because at one point I did look at that strong starting 11. We even talked about on here, like we had 11 players out injured who are probably better than 11 players had starting a couple of weeks ago. So, to answer your question, I probably would stick with the same team that started. Yes.
I think there's an interesting debate, because obviously we'll have Rocky back because he's missed his 2 games now. If Rocky comes back in, do you push Stevenson into midfield? Do you just take Stevenson out the team? Do you take Wright out the team and put Cadden out at right wing back straight away? How do you fit? Because I think to be fair, based off the team that started, Rocky definitely does come straight back into that starting 11. Is that a fair assumption?
I don't know. No, I don't know if he does, mate. I don't know. He's been very mixed since he started, isn't he? And I don't know if he does come straight back in, to be honest. I'm actually just got to avoid everything I just said a minute ago, because I fucking love to contradict myself. But I don't know how you could drop Lewis Stevenson.
Yeah.
Like, based on the way he's playing, so you'd maybe have to push him into midfield.
I think Stevenson's quite aggressive as well with Chelsea against Aberdeen.
Aye. Do you remember the game that Stephen Whittaker got sent off up there, where we fucking basically chucked the game? Like, that in essence probably wasn't a terrible idea, playing him in that position, because he does give you that kind of combative nature, and Stevenson does that against 2 central midfielders who are going to be of quite a similar ilk. And to be honest, if you look at probably over the course of the last maybe 8 to 10 weeks, it's between him and Porteous who's been our most consistent performer, I would say, at a really high level. He's been very, 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 very good. So, fuck it. Just centre midfield, captain, put him on penalties. You can do all the post-match stuff, whatever other accolades you can give him, just give it to Lewis Stevenson.
Would agree.
Fair. Greg, do you think that Rocky gets a look in, or do you think he sticks to the bench for this one?
No, I think he sticks to the bench, to be honest. I'm not one for chopping and changing winning teams, to be honest. I've contradicted myself in the past for that as well, but that's just what we do. But I don't think he really deserves to come back in at the moment. They look solid enough without him, so this is Error's place back in the start 11.
Well, I've been enjoying the nicey nature of the podcast today, but I am going to call you out for that. I think that's fucking nonsense. I think starting with one natural centre back and having a right wing back and a Lewis Stevenson who's like 34 or like is a left back / centre mid. No, but I'm saying because
you brought his age into it again.
I know.
Brought his age into it again, mate. Mate.
No, but I think
I'm calling age UK right now.
Listen. I think that aging players, like I think Stevenson's been so good because the role that we've put him in. I think that if he had to play as a left-sided centre back and a back four every week, I think he would struggle. And I think that's not. I think he would struggle more now than he would 5 years ago. I don't think that's an unfair comment. But I think that Rocky has to come back in.
To be honest, I think you'll be absolutely on that, Harry. I think you'll be very harsh as well. But
I try and get a wee jib in there at Liam because I knew it was
you'll bring my age
absolutely
up as well about how I'm doing because how old I am.
Aye, but Porteous, I think Porteous has done incredibly well, but I think having another centre back alongside him would be a nice reward for him for his hard work in the last few weeks. As I say, I don't know who I would take out the team, but I think Dre Wright left wing back, that was solid. So good. But yeah, so if you are happy with that, was that the team lineup then? So pretty much just the same as last week. Don't change anything. Rocky can sit on the bench and watch his two non-centre backs play at centre back.
I'm
what do you mean two non-centre halves? Elaborate that, please.
Pardon?
Elaborate on the two non-centre halves.
Well, Chris Cannon's no centre back and he played at centre back at the start of the game. And then Lewis Stevenson's no centre back and he played at centre back.
Right. And you've literally just sucked Stevenson off for about 10 minutes.
I think Stevenson's fantastic and I think he's done a really good job. I think if he's no a centre back, I think his best performances this season have come at centre mid of all places.
Oh well.
All right, well that was a great debate we had there, Greg. Thank you for that.
I honestly just think I've been halves, to be honest. Like, nothing wrong with the team that's there. Yeah, but there we go. Me and Liam can die on that hill. You can shout about Hibs players' ages all you want.
I'm fucking the podcast Claudio Ranieri. I am the tinker man. Like I reserve the right to change what players I pick and how I define how we pick a team from week to week. But fuck it. I think we could play Lewis Stevenson left centre forward on Saturday and he'd do a shift for us. So.
Aye, the man is.
But he can't because how old he is. Remember
that. Well, in terms of everything we've covered, I think boo Harry for his ages.
I'm going to start booing you every time you speak because you're just at the order again.
You were as well doing that at the game on Sunday, to be honest.
Mate, I mean, you were ridiculous. You were at the order at the game, actually. I was a bit embarrassed standing beside you.
All right, well, good stuff to end the podcast on a positive note of me embarrassing people. But yeah,
predictions, Harry.
Predictions. Good point. Just before we wrap up, Liam has reminded me that we normally give predictions on this podcast before we.
I reminded you, but I also didn't put it in the agenda. To be fair, so it's I've saved bacon at the last minute. I think we're going to go up there and get 3 points on Saturday. I know we don't go up there and win all too often, but I think we'll go up there on Saturday and get 3 points. I think it'll be 2-0 Hibs. I think we'll expose some of their frailties at the back. And do you know what? Fuck it, because we're all on the hype train now. I'm going to go for an Elias Melkersen double.
Stunning. And Greg, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking Rocky's going to be on the bench for a start. And I think Hibs will win 3-1.
3-1, who's getting the goals?
Stevenson hat-trick. He's going to cup his ears just for you, Harry.
Beautiful. We love to see it. It's a tricky one. Being honest, I'm just going to go with what my instincts tell me. I'm feeling a 2-2. I feel that it's going to be one of those games that will be a bit more exciting than we'll give it credit for. Aye, we don't really see too many good games at Pittodrie. Apart from Easter Road, Pittodrie has the worst football in the country, I reckon. But Hibs, obviously, after that Motherwell performance, we're going to turn it up and we're going to get some good performances back at the game. And for my 2 goals, I think that some people age like a fine wine. So Lewis Stevenson, I agree, he's going to get at least a brace, at the weekend. But yeah, we've absolutely pumped Motherwell, got ourselves to yet another Hampden appearance, which is simply sublime. On the weekend, we're either going to draw or pump Aberdeen. And lads, it's been a pleasure.
Enjoyed myself, mate.
Thank you very much, Harry. Great
On the
host.
Hibs.